Here I am with a Ravin R29X, the Black Widow. Ooh, I really am enjoying this crossbow. I love an awful lot about this crossbow. I love the camo pattern. I love the fit and feel. Believe it or not, even though it's kind of a short crossbow, it kind of fits me good. I'm even kind of liking the scope setup, the Hawk setup, even though I'm kind of a scope snob, right? I'm one of those guys that likes the range finding scopes. I love the backyard broadheads stirrup attachment. I can set this thing down here, don't have to look at it. You can't see it, but it's on the ground here, but I pick it right up and here we go. And I like the crank. I like the crank so much, I got two handles for the crank, right? Because I don't want to be without my crank handles. It's about a year ago that I got this thing, right? Still have not hunted with it. Still haven't shot it an awful lot. And there's a few good reasons for that. If you've been following Death by Bunjie, you kind of know what those reasons are. Poke one through there if we can. There goes that. The morning that I got this crossbow, before it arrived, I sat right over here in the driveway in my truck and I did a podcast. And it was a bunch of predictions about this crossbow. Before it arrived, what I thought I would experience, what I thought my Ravin experience, my first experience with Ravin would be like. This is a reflection on that. I'm gonna play some parts of that podcast, Talking with Bunjie, and then I'm gonna tell you what I think. It is Saturday, August 24th when I am recording this, and it's important. The date is important. And here's why the date is important. I am, today, Rich Wilson, getting a Ravin. I'm going to let that sink in. I'm going to pause. I'm getting a Ravin. Pause. By the time you hear this podcast, hopefully you'll already know that, because you are going to be watching the last week of Crossbow Appreciation Month, which is kind of Ravin week. Now, that podcast was recorded on August 24th, 2024. Here we are a year later, right? A year with the Black Widow. The last week of Crossbow Appreciation Month, which was going to be Ravin week, right? And it kind of worked out that way. But man, ups and downs with this crossbow. Anytime you switch platforms, anytime you switch crossbows, you're going to be presented with challenges and problems perhaps. But I really did not expect this much trouble switching to a Ravin, but it has been quite an adjustment. But I still feel deep down that it's worth it, that it's worth all of this hassle. And we're gonna see as this season is upon us, whether that's the case. Now this year in Crossbow Appreciation Month, we had choosing a crossbow week. That was like the first week or so of Crossbow Appreciation Month, where we came up with a bunch of tips and ideas. We discussed a lot of really good topics, I think, that are relevant to choosing a new crossbow or choosing a crossbow platform or brand. The week after that, we start talking about scopes, right? And one of the things that I came up with, I'm a scope snob, right? I always refer to the speed scopes as vintage scopes. I really do like a good range finding scope like the Purist Oracle X. That's no surprise to anybody watching this video, I am sure. Another thing I'm thinking about that Ravin, I'm gonna have to put the cheek piece on here, right? To get to lift my head up for the burst, because I'm putting a burst on the Ravin. I can tell you, you don't see one on the Ravin here. I've got the Hawk Zoom FFP on here. And on this crossbow, I hate to say this, but I really like this scope on this crossbow. It's the weirdest thing. For me, I am not the traditional scope kind of guy anymore, but with this crossbow, there's a couple reasons why it really kind of seems to work. And this wasn't something that I predicted. This wasn't something I was thinking about last year, but with this crossbow, it shoots fast enough that out to 30, 40 yards, this scope that doesn't have a speed ring, it just sort of works with crossbows in a certain range of speeds, and it seems to work really well with this. I shoot very well by my standards, right? I say this over and over, but in this day and age, most of the crossbow gear out there shoots better than I do. But I can hunt with the best of them. I don't have a problem with that. And I'm confident that with this setup, I can go out and hunt out to 40 yards, no problem, kill a deer. So I'm not worried about that at all. This gear is not going to hold me back. This scope and crossbow combo is it's a winner. They have some arrows that they sell with Burt Coyote Luminox that I have, but I'm gonna have to play around with those and see if they're satisfactory or not, because people complain about those, can't get them to turn on and off. And they are a different version of Burt Coyote. They're made by Burt Coyote. That makes me happy. I've told you I'm not going to shoot another crossbow that doesn't use Burt Coyote Luminox. One of the challenges I'm going to find is those Luminox and arrows. I do expect to have to look at different arrow options. Okay. I can tell you right now, I got a good enough deal on this. You shop around on the R29X, you can get it for $1,700, $1,800. I am willing to roll the dice a little bit on arrows and void a warranty if it comes to that. Yeah, so one of the things that I was predicting, right, was that I was going to have a problem with Luminox, and man, is that true. I'm not really a big fan of the Ravin arrows, but I can tell you I have come to adjust to them. I'm not going to say I've come to love them. That is not the case. But I do have the ability now to turn those off. They aren't turned off in a way that traditional Burt Coyote Luminox fans like myself turn off arrows. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have my way of doing the Burt Coyote Luminox that works very well for me on the SWAT X1 or on the Excalibur crossbows. And I really, really like that. On this crossbow, you've got to shake those things. There's a different style of Luminox on there. It is a bushing, sort of an insert that goes down in the shaft. It's cemented in there, and then the knock is very tightly fitted into that. Not a good design. I'm not a big fan of it. I don't like it. It's not my preference, but I see why they do it, and I see now why they require it on a high-end, high-speed crossbow like the R29X. And I'm here to tell you, you know about the foibles from last year, the problems that I had right down here in a 60-yard backyard, and I can tell you that's over with. I am not going to do that again. I am not going to experiment with arrows on the Ravin R29X. I am stuck with the Ravin arrows, they're shooting well. Okay, that's not the problem. I don't have a complaint about the way they shoot. I have a complaint about them. They're not my favorite knock, but you've got to use the right knock and you got to use the right arrow. That's what it comes down to. On these high speed crossbows, right? When we're talking about the ultra modern speeds, the 450 feet per second and above, stick with what the factory recommends. Man, it's like I've gone full circle on Death by Bunjie. I said that in the beginning when I started out in 2010 crossbow hunting, and when I started Death by Bunjie, uploaded my first video in 2014, and I went all the way, said that over and over and over. I would say, look, use what the manufacturer recommends. Then we get to the point where I started experimenting with arrows, and I make my own arrows, and I love making arrows, and I'm really good at it. I think I'm very good at it. And I shoot some really nice arrows and make some really great shots. Now we're at a point in crossbow development where that's over with. That's over with, for now. But I'm not going to be making my own arrows for this crossbow. In my prediction, I was talking about how it would void the warranty, and I'm okay with that. Still okay, yeah, I voided the warranty 100%, but it's not just a warranty issue, it's a safety issue. Don't be deviating from what the manufacturer is recommending because of your own safety. Like, I could have been hurt doing this, right? I could lose an eye, I could lose my vision, I could could get cuts, you know, any number of problems, and I'm very fortunate that nobody got hurt. So I'm telling you now, stick with what the manufacturer recommends. If you don't, you're kind of asking for it and you suffer the consequences. I've always said that I know cranks are coming, right? I know there's the time is coming when I have to shoot a crank. So this crossbow, you can only crank Ravins because there's so much tension on them. They don't allow for rope cocking. Yeah, cranks, huh? For years I've been saying I don't want a crank. When I was looking for new crossbows, I'm looking for ones that I don't need a crank with. I've also gotten to the point, however, where this has kind of gone full circle. I went from not wanting a crank, just rope cocking, to, man, I really like this crank. I like the fact that I can crank it up and decock it with the crank. The crank handles snap right in here. They're easily transported, easy to access. They snap right on the crossbow. You crank them up, crank them back, whatever. It's a great system, and I really like it. So hats off to Ravin for this. You've sold me on the crank. Another thing that I'm thinking about with this crossbow, I don't think it will become my primary hunting crossbow. And I say that for two reasons. One is I don't see it overcoming the SWAT X1 right now in my eyes. That SWAT X1 is set up so perfect, and it just does such a perfect job. Deer aren't going to duck that thing within 30 yards. I got new arrows this year. I really think that's my crossbow going forward for this season, for the 24-25 season.
I wasn't thinking this would be my primary crossbow to hunt with, and so far it is not. It still is not my primary crossbow. I'm still a SWAT X1 guy going into the 2025 hunting seasons, the fall crossbow seasons. For now. The jury is still out. I'm still testing this and still shooting it in the backyard. And it's entirely possible that this accompanies me into the deer woods. We shall see. So you got to stay tuned to Death by Bunjie to find out. Pretty exciting stuff. It's great that we live in a world with that many options. I still love the SWAT X1. Don't get me wrong, but it's still on the lower end of the modern speeds, right? It's not really a 400 feet per second crossbow like I would like. And it also is not decockable. And when you have arrows that you're taking with you, I don't like carrying the extra decocking arrow. I don't like having to unload a crossbow and load a decocking arrow and fire it, and then later on go find the decocking arrow and not forget it, and to remember to pick it up and bring it back to the truck and all that good stuff. It's a hassle in this day and age. I feel like after using this one that we just shouldn't have to put up with that, right? Shouldn't need a decocking arrow. Should be able to decock your crossbow. Kind of went full circle on that. In 2010, I buy Bunjie, cock it, decock it. I can cock that thing, and if I don't like it, if I didn't feel right when I cocked it, I decock it and then cock it again, right? Genevieve laughs about that when I do it, but it's true. We've gone full circle. Then we got to the point where with Genevieve's crossbow, it's a big old hassle to put a crank on it, and dig that out of your bag and crank it up and put the hardware on and the glove or whatever that is and crank it up and then take the glove off and put the crank. I don't like all that. This doesn't need all of that. You snap the handle out, you put the handle on, you crank it up, decock it, whatever you're gonna do, snap the handle back in, you're good to go. It's always set up and ready to go. I do like it. So we've kind of gone full circle to where, you know, the future for me is cranks.
I think it'll be okay with the targets. I bought targets. This is a good one. People ask me all the time about what targets, because I can't pull the arrows out of my targets, right? I think that the Morel Kinetic 1.0, according to reports, and that Titan, I think the two of them will work.
I was right about the targets. So there's something I was right about. The Kinetic 1.0 works great with this crossbow. Pulls out. It doesn't even stick. Like there's no need for arrow lube or any of that stuff. Shooting it at the big shot target with a field point's probably a bad idea. Those get stuck in there pretty good, and you got to stand on the target and pull on it and everything else. Once you break them loose, they slide right out. But with a broadhead on there, it does stop it well.
Shooting rests. I really like the Bog Death Grip. Friend of Bunjie, Jim, who's shooting ravens with me today in the 60-yard backyard from Backyard Broadheads, he shoots off a rest, like a shooting rest in a bag and all this other stuff.
And the shooting rest. Now here I have it on this is a Primos, a Jim Shockey edition trigger stick, and then I modified it and put a Bog Death Grip clamp on here. This is more of a run and gun setup. That's the intended purpose of this rest, if you can see that. And it allows me to, extend it, stand it up, all that good stuff. It's a pretty handy little thing, you know what I mean? I can snap it up like that, but if I want to, I can drop it down. You can do all of this sort of thing. It's a little wobbly, right? This is more for in the woods and in the field, going from one hunting location to another, spotting and stalking, or moving up and down the yard, that sort of thing. I'm going to build a table to shoot off of anyway, so I can set stuff on it when I'm shooting in the backyard. Just a handy table to have here, and that will double as a rest going forward. We'll probably try something like that and see how we make out.
So I expect that length of pull to be kind of an issue. The comfort level, whether this is comfortable enough to shoot with and hunt with, I don't know if it'll, will it become my primary crossbow or not become my primary crossbow because of that? That's entirely possible. It's something we'll have to explore down the road.
I was a little concerned about that because that's a big deal, and I had not carried one before. I had not shot it. I had not put my eye up to a scope on an R29X, just the R29 before this. And I can tell you though that I do like this setup. I don't have a problem with it. This comes after shooting the SWAT X1 over and over. Those shorter crossbows tend to work well with you, right? They tend to work okay. So that was sort of preparing me for a smaller crossbow like this one. The trigger reach, that's something I've complained about on these crossbows. It's like, seriously, it's like an inch or something, right? When you cock it, it's out here. So your trigger reach is, boom, only it's extended by close to an inch. You know, still not quite where I'd want it, but it's not where I thought it was either. It's actually a little bit better than I thought. So I'm getting used to that as well. The more I shoot this crossbow, the more I like it. Give me your thoughts on the Ravin R29X. If you have one, if you want one, if you don't want one, let me know in the comments. Until next time, all hail Bunjie.